Torah portion for the week of 29 March 2025 is Pekudei, which is accounts. Torah portion is taken from Exodus 38:21 through 40:38. The Haftarah is Ezekiel 45:16 through 46:18. And the Apostolic is from the book of Luke 22, verses 1 through 13. Exodus 38:21 to the end of the chapter. These were the appointments of the dwelling place of the witness, which was appointed by the command of Moshe for the service of the Levites by the hand of Ithamar, son of Aharon the priest. And Bezalel, son of Uri, son of Hur, of the tribe of Yehudah, made all that Yehovah had commanded Moshe. And with him Oholiab, son of Ahisamach, of the tribe of Dan, an engraver and designer, an embroiderer in blue and purple and scarlet material, and in fine linen. All the gold prepared for the work, and all the work of the set-apart place, and it was the gold of the wave offering, came to be 29 talents and 730 shekels, according to the shekel of the set-apart place. And the silver from the ones counted of the congregation was 100 talents and 1,775 shekels, according to the shekel of the set-apart place. A beka, half a shekel for a head, according to the shekel of the set-apart place, for everyone passing over to those counted, from 20 years old and above, for 603,550 men. And the 100 talents of silver were for casting the sockets of the set-apart place and the bases of the veil, 100 sockets from the 100 talents, a talent for each socket. And of the 1,775 shekels he made hooks for the columns, and overlaid their tops, and made bands for them. And the bronze of the wave offering was 70 talents and 2,400 shekels. And with it he made the sockets for the door of the tent of meeting, and the bronze altar, and the bronze grating for it, and all the utensils for the altar, and the sockets for the courtyard all around, and the bases for the courtyard gate, and all the pegs for the dwelling place, and all the pegs for the courtyard all around. Exodus 39. And of the blue and purple and scarlet material they made woven garments, to do service in the set-apart place. And they made the set-apart garments which were for Aharon, as Yehovah had commanded Moshe. And he made the shoulder garment of gold, of blue and purple and scarlet material, and of fine woven linen. And they beat out sheets of gold and cut it into threads, to work it in with the blue and purple and scarlet material, and the fine linen, the work of a skilled workman. They made shoulder pieces for it to join it, and it was joined at its two edges. And the embroidered band of his shoulder garment that was on it was of the same work of gold, and blue and purple and scarlet material, and of fine woven linen, as Yehovah had commanded Moshe. And they made the shoham stones set in plated work of gold, engraved as signets are engraved, according to the names of the sons of Yisrael. And he put them on the shoulders of the shoulder garment, stones of remembrance for the sons of Yisrael, as Yehovah had commanded Moshe. And he made the breastplate a work of a skilled workman, like the work of the shoulder garment, of gold, of blue and purple and scarlet material, and of fine woven linen. It was square. They made the breastplate double, its length a span, its width a span, doubled. And they filled it with 4 rows of stones. A row of ruby, a topaz, and an emerald was the first row. And the second row a turquoise, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row a jacinth, an agate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row a beryl, a shoham, and a jasper, set in plated work of gold in their settings. And the stones were according to the names of the sons of Yisrael, 12 according to their names, engraved like a signet, each one with its own name according to the 12 tribes. And they made braided chains of corded work for the breastplate at the ends, of clean gold. And they made 2 settings of gold, and 2 gold rings, and put the 2 rings on the 2 ends of the breastplate. And they put the 2 cords of gold in the 2 rings on the ends of the breastplate. And the 2 ends of the 2 cords they fastened in the 2 settings, and put them on the shoulder pieces of the shoulder garment in the front. And they made 2 rings of gold, and put them on the 2 ends of the breastplate, on the edge of it, which was on the inward side of the shoulder garment. And they made 2 gold rings, and put them on the 2 shoulder pieces, underneath the shoulder garment, on the front of it, close to its seam above the embroidered band of the shoulder garment. And they bound the breastplate by means of its rings to the rings of the shoulder garment with a blue cord, so that it would be above the embroidered band of the shoulder garment, and that the breastplate would not come loose from the shoulder garment, as Jehovah had commanded Moshe. And he made the robe of the shoulder garment of woven work, all of blue. And the opening of the robe was in the middle, like the opening in a scaled armor, with a woven binding all around the opening, so that it would not tear. And they made on the hem of the robe pomegranates of blue and purple and scarlet material, twined. And they made bells of clean gold, and put the bells between the pomegranates on the hem of the robe all around, between the pomegranates. A bell and a pomegranate, a bell and a pomegranate, all around the hem of the robe, for the service, as Jehovah had commanded Moshe. And they made the long shirt of fine linen, the work of a weaver, for Aharon and his sons, and a turban of fine linen, and the turban ornaments of fine linen, and short trousers of fine woven linen, and a girdle of fine woven linen, with blue and purple and scarlet material, the work of an embroiderer, as Jehovah had commanded Moshe. And they made the plate of the set-apart sign of dedication of clean gold, and wrote on it an inscription like the engraving of a signet, set apartness to Jehovah. And they put on it a blue cord, to fasten it above the turban, as Jehovah had commanded Moshe. And all the work of the dwelling place of the tent of meeting was completed, and the children of Israel did according to all that Jehovah had commanded Moshe, so they did. And they brought the dwelling place to Moshe, the tent and all its furnishings, its hooks, its boards, its bars, and its columns, and its sockets, and the covering of ram skins dyed red, and the covering of fine leather, and the veil of the covering, the ark of the witness with its poles, and the lid of atonement, the table and all its utensils, and the showbread, the clean lampstand with its lamps, the lamps to be put in order, and all its utensils, and the oil for the light, and the altar of gold, and the anointing oil, and the sweet incense, and the covering for the tent door. the bronze altar and its bronze grating, its poles and all its utensils, the basin with its stand, the screens of the courtyard, its columns and its sockets, the covering for the courtyard gate, its cords and its pegs, and all the utensils for the service of the dwelling place for the tent of meeting, the woven garments to do service in the set-apart place, the set-apart garments for Aharon the priest and his sons' garments to serve as priest. According to all that Yehovah had commanded Moshe, so the children of Israel did all the work. And Moshe looked over all the work, and saw they did it as Yehovah had commanded. So they had done, and Moshe blessed them. Exodus 40. And Yehovah spoke to Moshe, saying, On the first day of the first month, you are to raise up the dwelling place of the tent of meeting, and shall put in it the ark of the witness, and screen the ark with the veil. And you shall bring in the table and arrange what belongs on it, and bring in the lampstand and light its lamps. And you shall set the altar of gold for the incense before the ark of the witness, and put up the covering of the door to the dwelling place. And you shall set the altar of the burnt offering before the door of the dwelling place of the tent of meeting, and shall set the basin between the tent of meeting and the altar, and shall put water therein. And you shall set up the courtyard all around, and shall place the covering of the courtyard gate, and shall take the anointing oil, and anoint the dwelling place, and all that is in it, and shall set it and all its utensils apart, and it shall be set apart. And you shall anoint the altar of the burnt offering, and all its utensils, and set the altar apart, and the altar shall be most set apart. And you shall anoint the basin and its stand, and set it apart. And you shall bring Aharon and his sons to the door of the tent of meeting, and wash them with water. And you shall put the set-apart garments on Aharon, and anoint him, and set him apart to serve as priest to me. And you shall bring his sons, and put long shirts on them, and shall anoint them, as you anointed their father, and they shall serve as priests to me. And their anointing shall be for an everlasting priesthood throughout their generations. And Moshe did according to all that Yehovah had commanded him. So he did. And it came to be in the first month of the second year, on the first day of the month, that the dwelling place was raised up. And Moshe raised up the dwelling place, and placed its sockets, and set up its boards, and put in its bars, and raised up its columns, and spread the tent over the dwelling place, and put the covering of the tent on top of it, as Yehovah had commanded Moshe. And he took the witness, and put it into the ark, and he put the poles through the rings of the ark, and put the lid of atonement on top of the ark, and brought the ark into the dwelling place, and placed the veil of the covering to screen off the ark of the witness, as Yehovah had commanded Moshe. And he put the table in the tent of meeting, on the north side of the dwelling place, outside the veil, and set the bread in order upon it before Yehovah, as Yehovah had commanded Moshe. And he put the lampstand in the tent of meeting, opposite the table, on the south side of the dwelling place, and lit the lamps before Yehovah, as Yehovah had commanded Moshe. And he put the gold altar in the tent of meeting in front of the veil, and burned sweet incense on it, as Yehovah had commanded Moshe. And he set up the covering to the door of the dwelling place. And he put the altar of burnt offering before the door of the dwelling place of the tent of meeting, and offered upon it the burnt offering and the grain offering, as Jehovah had commanded Moshe. And he put the basin between the tent of meeting and the altar, and put water therein for washing. And Moshe and Aharon and his sons washed their hands and their feet with water from it, as they went into the tent of meeting, and as they came near the altar, they would wash, as Jehovah had commanded Moshe. And he raised up the courtyard all around the dwelling place and the altar, and placed the covering of the courtyard gate, and Moshe completed the work. And the cloud covered the tent of meeting, and the esteem of Jehovah filled the dwelling place. And Moshe was not able to come into the tent of meeting, because the cloud dwelt on it, and the esteem of Jehovah filled the dwelling place. And when the cloud was taken up from above the dwelling place, the children of Israel went onward in all their journeys. But if the cloud was not taken up, then they did not set out till the day that it was taken up. For the cloud of Jehovah was on the dwelling place by day, and fire was on it by night, before the eyes of all the house of Israel in all their journeys. Ezekiel 45:16 through 46:18. All the people of the land are to give this contribution to the prince in Israel. And on the prince are the burnt offerings, and the grain offerings, and drink offerings, at the festival, the new moons, the Sabbaths, and all the appointed times of the house of Israel. He is to prepare the sin offering, and the grain offering, and the burnt offering, and the peace offerings, to make atonement for the house of Israel. Thus said the Master Jehovah: in the first month, on the first of the month, you are to take a young bull, a perfect one, and shall cleanse the set-apart place. And the priest shall take some of the blood of the sin offering, and put it on the doorposts of the house, on the four corners of the ledge of the altar, and on the posts of the gate of the inner courtyard. And do the same on the 7th of the month for anyone who makes a mistake or is foolish, and you shall make atonement for the house. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, you have the Passover, a festival of 7 days. Unleavened bread is eaten. And on that day the prince shall prepare for himself and for all the people of the land a bull for a sin offering. And during the 7 days of the festival he prepares a burnt offering to Jehovah, 7 bulls and 7 rams, perfect ones, daily for 7 days, and a male goat daily for a sin offering. And he prepares a grain offering of 1 ephah for each bull, and 1 ephah for each ram, together with a hin of oil for each ephah. In the 7th month, on the 15th day of the month, at the festival, he prepares, like these 7 days, as a sin offering, as the burnt offering, as the grain offering, and as the oil. Thus said the Master Jehovah: the gate of the inner courtyard facing east is shut the 6 days of work, but on the Sabbath it is opened, and on the day of the new moon it is opened. And the prince shall enter by way of the porch of that gate from the outside, and he shall stand by the post. And the priest shall prepare his burnt offering and his peace offerings, and he shall bow himself at the threshold of the gate, and shall go out, but the gate is not shut until evening. And the people of the land shall also bow themselves at the entrance to this gate before Jehovah on the Sabbaths and on the new moons. And the burnt offering which the prince brings to Jehovah on the Sabbath day is 6 lambs, perfect ones, and a ram, a perfect one. And the grain offering is 1 ephah for a ram, and the grain offering for the lambs, a gift of his hand, and a hin of oil for an ephah. And on the day of the new moon, a young bull, a perfect one, 6 lambs and a ram, they should be perfect. And he prepares a grain offering of an ephah for a bull, and an ephah for a ram, and for the lambs as his hand attains, and a hin of oil for an ephah. And when the prince enters, he comes in by the way of the porch of that gate, and goes out the same way. And when the people of the land enter before Jehovah at the appointed times, whoever shall enter by way of the north gate to bow himself goes out by way of the south gate. And whoever enters by way of the south gate goes out by way of the north gate. He shall not return by way of the gate through which he came, but goes out through the opposite one. And the prince is to be in their midst, entering when they enter, and going out when they go out. And in the festivals and in the appointed times, the grain offering is an ephah for a bull, and an ephah for a ram, and for lambs the gift of his hand, and a hin of oil for an ephah. And when the prince makes a spontaneous burnt offering, or spontaneous peace offerings to Jehovah, the gate facing east shall be opened for him, and he shall prepare his burnt offering and his peace offerings as he did on the Sabbath day, and he shall go out. And after he goes out, the gate shall be shut. And make a daily burnt offering to Jehovah of a lamb a year old, a perfect one, preparing it morning by morning. And prepare a grain offering with it morning by morning, 1/6 of an ephah, and 1/3 of a hin of oil to moisten the fine flour, a grain offering to Jehovah, continual, everlasting laws. And prepare the lamb and the grain offering and the oil morning by morning, a continual burnt offering. Thus said the Master Jehovah, when the prince gives a gift of some of his inheritance to any of his sons, it belongs to his sons. It is their possession by inheritance. And when he gives a gift of some of his inheritance to one of his servants, then it shall be his till the year of release. Then it shall return to the prince. Only the inheritance of his sons is theirs. And the prince does not take any of the people's inheritance by evicting them from their possession. He is to give his sons their inheritance from his own possession, so that none of my people are separated from his possession. Luke 22, 1 through 13. And the festival of unleavened bread drew near, which is called Passover. And the chief priests and the scribes were seeking how to kill him, for they feared the people. And Satan entered into Yehuda, who was called Man from Kiriath, who was numbered among the 12. And he went and spoke with chief priests and captains, how he might deliver him up to them. And they were glad, and agreed to give him silver. And he promised, and was seeking an occasion to deliver him up to them, away from the crowd. And the day of unleavened bread came, when the Passover had to be slaughtered. And he sent Kepha and Johanan, saying, Go and prepare the Passover for us to eat. And they said to him, Where do you wish us to prepare? And he said to them, See, as you enter into the city, a man shall meet you carrying a jar of water. Follow him into the house he enters. And you shall say to the master of the house, The teacher says to you, Where is the guest room, where I might eat the Passover with my taught ones? And he shall show you a large, furnished upper room. Prepare it there. And going, they found it as he had said to them, and they prepared the Passover.